Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GameMaker for Beginners. In this week's episode, we're going to look at animating our sprites using GameMaker's built-in sprite editor. We're going to create a simple run animation, then we're going to create a very simple standing animation, and then we're going to look how to apply these to an object, such as the player's character in the game, the avatar. And then we're also going to look at how we can make our animations face in the directions we're moving. So to start off with, you'll see here, I've got my game. I've made a very simple game. It's just a platformer with some floor and a very simple sprite. And in a minute, all I can do is I've already coded it so I can move around the level. I can move left and right and up and down. There we go. But you'll see it's just one animation, and when I move into the right and the left, it doesn't really move. The object moves, but the animation doesn't have the illusion of the character running. It's just one pose, doesn't face the direction of moving, and it never changes. So what we're going to do, the first thing, is we're going to make a very simple run animation. If we have a look at the sprite that I've created so far, I've created a very, very simple sprite. It's only one image, and it's just this little blue fellow here, and he's kind of in a running pose. What we need to do is we need to create a second pose where he's at the next kind of step of his running pose, so where kind of his legs have changed position. So what we're going to do that is we're going to create a second image, and we're going to copy this first one as a starting off point. So I'm going to select the first image here, and go edit, copy, and paste, and now I've got a duplicate of my first image here. I'm going to click on the second one, and this is the one we're going to edit to make the second pose. The first thing I need to do is I need to change where his arms and legs are. So I'm going to use the eraser tool to erase his arms and legs as they are at the moment. And there we go. And then I'm going to use the pipette tool to just quickly select my colours. And then I'm just going to redraw his arms and legs in a slightly different pose. So, here we go. And it's really not the best animation in the world, I know. But it will do for now. So, very quickly draw out where he is. And let's draw out the back leg there. So, very, very quick and simple. It's not the best animation in the world, but that's fine because that's not the point of this. And there we go. So now if I click the tick, we've got our second pose. I've moved his arms and his legs. And we can kind of see there, if I've got these show preview ticks, it will show the guy running. And we can see that when the two images are played really fast, it does kind of look like he's running. However, it's so fast in a minute. That's because animations are a series of still images that are played one after another very quickly, and they're played so fast that when the human mind and eyes see them, it looks like the thing's actually moving, because we don't have time to kind of compute them changing, because they're changing so fast. So what we need to do is expand our animation here from 2 images to 15, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to click on the animation menu here, and we're going to set stretch and change the number of frames here to 15. 15 is a good number for a character animation, I've found, in something like this. There we go, and we can see what it's done is it's taken our 2 images and it's copied them into a sequence of 15. And all it's done is we've got 7 of image 1 and 8 of image 2. And there we go, and we can see in the show preview it looks much slower now, the animation. That's good, that's what we want. So if we click tick on there, and then click center on our sprite, Blue Man, and then click OK. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a standing animation, and this is going to be our animation for when the character is literally stood around and we're not pressing any keys. So what we're going to do, we're going to duplicate our sprite that we've already made, our Blue Man sprite. Mine's called Blue Man, yours is called something different. I'm going to call this Blue Man Standing, so it's very, very clear to me what this one is. I'm going to click Edit Sprite to go in, and once again I just want to start with one image, and so what I need to do is I'm going to click Animation and Stretch, and instead of stretching it out to 15 images like we did before, I'm going to delete 15 and type 1, and then it's going to kind of turn that into just one still image. We're going to double click on this, and same again, exactly the same process. I'm going to go through, I'm going to delete his legs and his arms, and I'm going to redraw them in kind of a standing still pose. So once again, nice and easy. So nothing too fancy. And I'm sure all of you will do much better animation and graphics work than I do. Oh, there we go. And there we go. So we've got our first standing pose. Just stand there with his arms and his legs. Exactly the same again. I need to stretch this out into an animation, so I need to make a second pose. So I'm going to select that first image. I'm going to go edit copy. Then I'm going to go edit paste. So I've got two copies of the same image. I'm going to go into my second. And when you watch someone standing, they never stand absolutely still. They never look as still as a statue. They're always kind of breathing in and out and slowly moving in whatever position they've got. So that's what I'm going to simulate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the marquee tool, which is this white dotted line. I'm going to use that to select part of my character, and I'm just going to select his body. I'll drag that over, and then with it selected, if I hover my mouse in the middle, you see the mouse icon turns to a compass, and this means we can now move what's ever in this selected area that I just selected marquee tool, and I'm just going to drag it down a little bit, and all that will do is it will just look like he's kind of bobbing up and down on the spot, and just give him a little bit of motion. I'm also going to move his pupils and his eyes a little bit. There we go, so just redraw them. And we can see now, obviously it's very fast, but he's bobbing up and down. So we're going to do exactly the same. We need to stretch this out from 2 images to 15 now. So we click on animation, select stretch, change the number of frames from 2 to 15 by typing in 15, and click OK. And there we go, you can see much more clearly now, nice and slow, he's bobbing up and down the spot. So we've created a very simple animation very quickly using GameMaker's built-in sprite engine. Click the tick button to say you're done with that. Make sure you center your sprite again, so click center, and then click OK. So we've got our two animations now, the running one and the standing one. Now what we need to do is apply them to our actual avatar object in the game. If I double click my avatar object here, you'll see that I've already made the code for him moving, and I've already added the collision with the wall object and kind of the move to contact with it there. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a series of 3 different events, and these are all going to be keyboard events because that's how I've controlled my character in the game. I need to make a left and right keyboard event. So if you click add event, keyboard and left, and then we'll also do add event, keyboard and right. And the third event is going to be a no key event, so when we're standing still, essentially when no key is being pressed. So click add event, keyboard, and select no key down there. In the left keyboard event, what we need to do is a couple of things. The first thing we need to do is head over to our menus over here, move down to menu main 1, and under the sprite subsection of the main 1 menu, drag over the first icon, which is change sprite. What we need to do is say whenever we press the left key, change the sprite into our running sprite, which is the blue man sprite here, that's the running one. Under the sub-image, this is to do with what images we should play in the animation. Now I know that there's 15 images in my animation, so I'm going to put 0 to 14, because that will play the first image all the way to the 14th image at a speed of 1, so that's fine. So click OK. Then what we need to do is do exactly the same for the right, so click on the right keyboard event, drag over change sprite, select the sprite that's your running sprite, which is blue man for me, change the sub-image from 0 to 14, so 0-14, so it'll play all of those images in the animation, and click OK. Then go to no key, drag over the change sprite, but this time, under the sprite, we want to select blue man standing. Once again, it was 15 images long, so we're going to change that from 0 to 14 again, so it plays 0-14, so from the first one all the way to the 14th image, and click OK. And then if I click OK now, click OK there. So now we've added our sprites, but we need to do one more sprite before this is ready, and what we need to do is we need to make a mask for our player. Because we're going to change sprites on our avatar and our player object, when they change, the sizes of those sprites might be slightly different, and the bottom of one sprite might be slightly higher than another. That's going to cause problems, because what you might find is when you press left or right, or you release left or right, you might suddenly kind of transport to the middle of your wall or your environment, because suddenly the image is bigger and it's kind of morphed from a center point into there. What we need to do is we need to make a mask, and a mask will be a sprite that we attach to our object that the player won't ever see, but that it will use to sort out any collision data. So it won't work out any collision data based on our animated sprites. So go up to sprites, right click and go create sprite. Or in fact, an easier way, if we select our blue man sprite, right click that and duplicate it, then click edit. We've got our 14 images here on our new duplicated sprite that's going to be our mask. Click animation, select stretch, change it from 15 frames to 1, and then double click on this one. Select a new colour, and then select the circle ellipse tool. Select the bottom option, which is the filled one, so not the outline and fill, just the bottom one, and then drag this over so it's roughly the same size as your sprite. Once you've done that, select the eraser tool, and then go through and erase all those other coloured pixels. So I'm going to erase all the blue and the black pixels that aren't my red sprite there. There we go. This is now our mask, and this is going to be roughly the same size as the sprite, but it's circular, and this is going to be used to figure out where our object is in the game room, for figuring out collisions with walls and floors, and it's going to stop all kinds of messy problems that we'd have if our mask was our actual animated sprite. So we click the tick button, click tick again, and I'm going to call this Blue Man Mask, so it's nice and clear. Make sure you center it like all your other sprites, and click OK. Now, if we go back into our avatar object, what we need to do now is apply the mask. And down the bottom here we can see there's an option for mask. At the minute it's undefined. If we click this, it will give us the option to set the mask of any of our sprites we've created, and we want to select the Blue Man Mask. So click OK. There we go. Now we're going to preview the game, and there's going to be one problem with this so far, but hopefully we should see now, instead of having a static image as our player that looks very lifeless and unengaging and false, we should now have a sprite that's at least animated and that stands still and bobs up and down when we're not pressing a key, or when we press left and right it plays the animated running animation for our character. So there we go, we can see already he's animated, so he's just standing there. I'm not pressing any keys on my keyboard, he's just bobbing up and down, much more engaging. If I press right, he runs. If I let go, he stands. There we go, so that all looks good. Here's the problem though, if I press left now, he's running, but he's running backwards. So the sprite isn't facing the direction that we're moving in, it's only facing in its default direction. So its default direction was to the right. So what we need to do now is we need to go back into our GameMaker object, and we need to tell it, if we press the left key, flip the sprite so that it's facing to the left. If we press the right key, flip it so it's facing to the right. So to do that, we click the X button, go back into our avatar object, and then in the left and right events that we've already created, where we've got our changing sprites into the animated sprite, we now need to add one more thing. So head into the main one submenu, go back to the sprite submenu here, and the second icon along is the transform sprite icon. Drag that across. And the option we need to change here is the X scale option. And X scale is essentially kind of flipping the sprite around on its axis to face the other way. For the left option, change the X scale from 1 to -1. So put a little minus in there and then click OK. And then go into your right keyboard event, drag over the transform sprite again. And this time, it automatically comes up with the default options. The X scale should be 1, so don't change anything, just click OK. And then if we click OK now and preview our level, what we should find is, now that we've added the transform sprite option and told it if we press the left key to rotate, to flip the sprite, we should see whenever we press the left key now, that running animation will face in the direction we're moving, because we've told it if we press left, face left, if we press right, face right. So let's test first of all, move right. Now let's press left and hopefully he'll face the direction we're moving in. There we go. Perfect. So we've created a very, very simple sprite here, animated it so it's bobbing up and down on the ground. We've created a very simple run animation for it and told it to, when we move left or right, to play the run animation instead of the standing still animation. And we've also said that the animation for the run animation should face in whatever direction we're moving, so left or right, and that's linked to the keyboard event. So that's how to create very simple animations using GameMaker, using the stretch function from the animation submenu, and using just two sprites that are a little bit different. So I hope to see your work, and yeah, good luck.